Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So today we are not in the boat anymore. We are in the city of Abydos, and we are right in front of the temple of Seti I, the temple of Abydos, and behind is the temple of Osirian. So for those who doesn't know, this is one of the places where you can really touch an Atlantean temple, the Osirian temple, named like that because of the god Osiris, is one of those temples where you can really be in an Atlantean temple. So you're not usually allowed to go there just to see it if you ask for it, unless you go on a private visit. So that's why tomorrow we go on private early in the morning. So this temple is also really special, I should say. For those who doesn't know, here is where you can find the flower of life. The famous flower of life was done here, and it's really amazing because now when you see it, you can tell that it was done by a laser. And it's the most ancient place where you can find the flower of life. And it's not only one flower of life, there are like 16 of them, but there's only one that you can see the best. So yes, that's why this place is so special. And also for me, for myself, it's really special, this spot, this place, because in that time, in the Atlantean time, certain women, we used to come to this place to give birth. And so according to my memories, here was the place where I give birth to my two kids in that time. So let's begin with our topic for today, which is related to the physical, to the knees in the physical week, of the month of Pisces. So, of course, related to the knees, we are going to talk about humility. Okay.
Humbleness.
Humbleness.
Humbleness, yeah.
Okay. So in our cultures, for sure, when you listen the word, here they tell me that humility is good to say too. So so when we speak about the concept of being humble, of humility, we usually relate this with being poor, like being poor in many senses. So we usually say that someone is humble, has humility when doesn't have material things, when that person doesn't show everything of itself, when is quiet, when shut up, and so these concepts of not showing yourself and not having things, that's the concept that we have usually in our culture regarding humility. And we are pushed to be like this somehow in our cultures. So let's try to understand what is humility. What is humility? According to Pisces. And let's go to take some myths about this. There was once in this path that we spoke about humility, but regarding another topic, another thing. So let's talk specifically about this now. So let's go to understand the origin of what is humility. Humility has the same root as human, of course. So where human come from? From the Latin word humus. Humus means wet land, wet soil. The origin of the word is humidity. So humidity, human, humility has the same etymology, wet land. And this is because in the history, we describe humans as the people that came from earth and water. So that's why we are the humans, the people from the wetlands. I explain that in another moment. So the quality of be a person that comes from the wetland is called humility. So basically, when we are speaking about humility, is when we describe the attribute of being a person from earth, so an earth being. So humility was kind of describing the attributes or the ability of these beings to live in harmony with the rest of the world, with the nature. In the moment when humans stopped living in forest and we started to be nomads, searching for new food, for new lands, to take food from water and so on, we had to adapt to many different geographies. So it was so difficult to know where we were heading to that we had to start to look for the only things that are always there. And that was the stars, the sun, and the moon. So when we started to become nomads, we stopped looking into the nature exactly, and we started to watch the skies to see the stars. So this concept of being nomad, following the stars, created the idea that the stars are guiding our lives. So the wise people that were guiding us through life, and they were dead, suddenly they said their spirits are guiding us exactly like the stars. So in that moment is when we started to believe that the souls of the people were to the heavens, to the stars, to the stars, and they were guiding us like the stars used to do. So these nomad people that started to walk around the planet and started to look into the skies more than the ground, they started to see how the stars, the brighter things in the heavens, were guiding us every day. So we created the idea that that was the good thing to follow. So we created the images of the holy, the things that are bright in the sky. What was the Indo-European language, that word for brightness? It was dieu. Dieu gives day, day gives dewa, dewa divinity, and from that we have the Latin words like deus, Zeus, Dios, which is God. So in this way, we created gods because of the things that were bright in the sky. What we started to believe is that in order to follow those gods in the sky, we need to leave the earth. So some traditions used to believe that the gods created all this in order for us, their kids, to enjoy this reality, this life. And for other traditions, the gods were punishing us because of our mistakes, and they sent us here to live because we suffer here. The people that used to believe that this reality was made for by the gods for us to enjoy life, they were much more democratic, polytheistic, republicans. They started to create these systems of society in which every island or every region had its own gods, and they had these differences, but they share ideas. They created the parliaments, they created these places to share ideas and thoughts, like the public squares and so on. So that was the structure of that society that used to believe in many gods. So the people that believed that the gods punished us by with the idea of being here in this life, they thought in God with the image of the father that punished his kids because they did something wrong. So because of this, they were much more monotheistic, and they believed in only one God, the Father, that was punishing everyone for doing wrong things. And because of this idea of only one God, they also needed the image of only one Father. So they created imperialism and autarky. So only one guy that ruled over the rest, like gods. So a king, a president, and those images that are pyramidal to control the rest of the people that are the kids. So what happened? That it's really much more easy to run an autarkic empire than a democratic republic. So the reason, because in an autarky, in an empire, it's much more easy to solve a problem by only one person, and in a democracy, it's so difficult because many people has to agree, and it takes time for that. So a lot of people, because being afraid, they decided to be part of an empire, so one person can defend everyone and take the decisions for everyone. This made that the monotheistic religions were much more useful for the autarkic empires, these systems. So these systems of monotheism, like the Islam, like the Christianism, the Judaism, were religions that were taken by the empires because it was easier to control a system. So that's why they were trying to use this in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, and then by the colonialism, it spread into the rest of the world, in America, Australia, Asia, and so on. So the idiosyncrasy of the religions, the monotheistic religions, were really useful for the systems to create a planetary government and much more easy to run. Because of this spread of the monotheism, the ideas of the humility, according to the humanistic point of view, they were left behind. And the humility from the point of view of humiliation was taken as a system. Those are the two paths that humanity would have taken. The first one, humility from humanism, which is the idea that we have to enjoy the life, the creation. And the other one, the humility of humiliation, is the one that says life is not to enjoy. You have to do a hard work in order to survive. So on your knees on the ground. Of course, that for an empire is much more easier to use the system of humiliation than the system of humanism. Take the ideas of the Christianism in order to politically take control over Europe in one system. So that's why all the cultures that came from the Mediterranean cultures in the past, we usually have this idea of humility being humiliation. And humiliation, remember, is the word to put your knees on the ground and to be under the control of others. So usually when we speak about humility today, we usually refer to the idea of humility according to the Christianism, in which this philosophy used to say that to be humble, you need to be poor, not to have things, and try not to show up a lot of what you have within to mark a difference between the people. So actually, the idea of humility from this point of view is to not to awaken the potential of each one of the persons, so everyone can be very low, thinking exactly the same, and much more easy to be controlled in the system. So let's go to what is the humanistic humility. So the humanistic humility is not only to, well, it's to recognize that we are humans. Actually, this is the first step, to recognize that we are humans, that humanity is an aspect of this reality, that we are part of this reality, that we have to love this reality, and that this is our own creation, that we have our own divinity inside, and that we have to respect the divinity of others. So humility is to respect the divinity in everything that is here in life and in the universe, the entire creation. It's not to say that the divinity is only in the sky, but the divinity is here everywhere. So by humility is accepting that the trees, the plants, the animals, the stones, everyone has something to teach me. Everyone has something to give to me to understand the world. So actually, to be humble, to work with humility, is to take a side into the earth and understand that I have something to learn from everyone in this reality, from everything that exists here, that I can learn much more from an insect maybe than from a master, that I have greater things to learn from the nature than from the things in the sky. So to be humble and connected to the humility in the humanistic point of view is to remember that the divinity is not up there in the heavens, and we have to leave the ground, the earth, in order to reach the divinity. To be humble with this idea is basically to remember that the earth is also levitating in between the stars, and that from the point of view from other planets and other stars, we also shine in the skies. So to be humble, remember, humility is not related to not having things or to be less than others. It's about to recognize that you have your own divinity being human in this earth, and that you can and that you must accept the divinity in others. When you accept that truth in others and you are able to learn from others, not expecting that learning from someone that is wiser, but being open to learn from anything, everything that maybe, as I said, is just an insect. So sometimes when we use this concept of humility, we kind of judge the others by saying if that person is humble or not. So by trying to reach people that is humble, we are not being humble, judging the ability of being humble of others. And actually, this happens because, as I said, humility is about accepting the brightest of others as you shine yourself. So when you are, when the shine of others are bothering you, usually it's because you don't realize of your own brightness, and you start to judge the brightest of others, and that creates the concept, the conflict, sorry, of your own humility. Remember that humility is to learn about the brightness of the others, to learn to shine with others. So, as I was saying, humility is not about looking into the skies to follow the brightness of the stars, is to recognize how you and the things of this world can shine too, and discover that divinity here on earth. So remember, humility is humus, earth, to come back to earth. And that would be the basis for the humanism. The vibration for today is 2. The statement is, I am the manifested history.